पंढरीनाथ महाराज की जय। नामदेव तुकाराम जनाबाई तुकाराम,
नामदेव तुकाराम जनाबाई तुकाराम,
नामदेव तुकाराम जनाबाई तुकाराम,
नामदेव तुकाराम जनाबाई तुकाराम,
नामदेव तुकाराम जनाबाई तुकाराम।
नामदेव तुकाराम जनाबाई तुकाराम.
So talking about making you grow, you're one of the few people who has Atma Kriya Yoga level 3, correct?
That's correct.
When I got level 2, I was told he never gives 3, right? Like level 2 is it. That's as far as you're going to get. And then I think it was that night in the temple, he said, who here, you had
It's Babaji
not missed it.
2019.
Pardon me?
Was on Babaji Day 2019.
Yes.
There is 40 people in the world who has Atma Kriya Yoga level 3. I mean, apart from Guruji. So, apart from all the Babaji disciples and apart from Guruji who was born with it. But in that, from Bhakti Marga devotees, there's only 40 people who are initiated Atma Kriya Yoga. Because you need to have practiced Atma Kriya Yoga 2 for 5 years, missing maximum 1 day per year.
Right.
Yeah.
And he was intense. I remember when he asked in the temple, who here has not missed, more than 5 days? And a bunch of hands went up, and he obviously knew every single person's practice. Yeah. Because remember, he was staring at someone going, really? Really?
And suddenly some hands start to come down.
Yes.
It was like 100 in the beginning, it got like filtered down to 40.
That's right.
Of course, I cannot talk about the techniques, obviously, but
no.
But it's amazing. That's amazing. I mean, I have this habit for my life before, like before I met Guruji, I didn't know much about Vaishnavism. So I was the yogi type, and I was really deep into Yogananda's Kriya Yoga. And the first time I took the autobiography of a yogi in my hands, I started to cry, and I thought, this guy is my guy. Yeah. And then I kind of found him again.
That's right.
And I was 16 when I got the autobiography of yogi. So I became the vegetarian stuff. And from when I received the first techniques of Yogananda, let's say, everything was so precious for me that I would never miss a day. It's just like it's something like it's something that I put in my head, is that there's not a chance. It's not something that you discuss. Eventually, maybe I miss this. That's not a chance, a possibility. I can do, if there's no way, I can do the worst and the quickest practice ever, but there's no way I'm gonna miss 1 day of practice. There's just not a possibility in my head when it's about Kriya.
Yeah.
So that's how we got to deal with it. It's the same with my Abhishekam for Prabhuji. When Guruji manifested my deity to me, he said, serve him every day. So I do Abhishek for him every day. There's not a chance that I don't do it. Like, there's not this possibility. Indeed. We just have to understand, once we want to have discipline or something, we have to understand that for us in our heads, a chance not to do it should not exist. So right. That's how I deal with it, basically. And I always love to do it. And I was doing it in a very disciplined way, like 2 times a day, 30, 40 minutes, sometimes 1 hour each session. Until, of course, I became an ashram resident. Because once I still always practice every day, but when you are an ashram resident, to practice 2 times half an hour, 2 times 40 minutes, 2 times 1 hour is if you are doing really your seva and going for prayers and everything, you really don't have the time to do that much Kriya. But everything the ashram is Kriya. So I can tell you guys from my personal Kriya practice that I do at least 1 or 2 rounds of main Kriya and the second Kriya, and I practice a little bit of meditation, which is the feeling after the Kriya. Right. Yeah. And then nowadays, of course, the third Kriya after that. So that's minimum, which is going to take me 15 to 20 minutes. It's an obligation. It's a law. And normally, nowadays, I do it straight after morning prayer. And sometimes even in the temple in silence. I sit in the corner of the puja kitchen, and that's it.
And I think that's what's so important is figure out how it will become a habit. Figure out where you slot it into the day so it doesn't get missed.
You know, sometimes have you seen this famous joke or movie about the race between the rabbit and the turtle?
Oh, right. The tortoise and the hare.
The turtle is straight forward slowly and reach the end. But the rabbit goes left and right, and eventually lose the path. Even though it's fast, you know? And sometimes people here in the ashram was like, oh, you do, but you're doing so fast. And I said, yeah, do you listen to Guruji's instructions? He said, the minimum is enough if you do it with love. That's his instructions. And then people sometimes they feel so much pressure that you have to do all the techniques every day for the whole day. Otherwise they feel bad, and otherwise you're not a proper yogi. And then at the end, they because of this guilty feeling, they even stop practicing for some days. And out of trying to do perfect, they don't do it all.
Right.
But if you keep doing, it's a rule to do it every day, and you just do it. Do whatever you can, but do it love. That's like, we cannot impress God anyway. You can meditate for 20 hours non-stop. God is not going to be impressed. So I do with the philosophy that I trust more the grace of Guruji and Maharaja Babaji than my ability of meditate good or bad. So I do my Kriya, it's in his hands what they want to do with me.
Yes. And that's, like you say, keep your focus in the right place. And then whatever you can do is...
Gotta go straight.
That's right. That's right.
Talking about, when I was in the Yogananda's organization, before I met Swami Vishwananda, of course, I was in Brazil, and there's no, the ashram of Yogananda is in America, and in India.
Yes.
There's only those two big ashrams, basically. And when I had to increase my practices in that time or have some questions, I had to literally talk to a Swami from the organization. And I remember how special that moment was. And I just want to share this so that we realize how we are spoiled in Bhakti Marga. We are literally so spoiled. Because I remember when, like 2 or 3 times a year, they would come to a situation where I had to call the United States, like a big, expensive phone bill. I would get super nervous. And I would randomly like call, I think it was just a reception number. And I said, hello, I have this doubt. I want to increase my Kriya, my practice number. And I want to talk, so I need to talk to a Swami. And the person would be so normally so nice. I said, oh, okay, no problem, wait a bit. And after some minutes, some Swami would come in the phone. And to talk to the Swami I was talking to I don't know, how can I even... It was like I was talking to Yogananda directly. The feeling was so amazing to be able to talk to a Swami. It was so difficult and expensive.
Yes.
And it was so precious, this 5 to 10 minutes of talk in the phone and clarifying some little doubts, and who knows when I'm going to have a lot of chance and I'm going to really call again, this and that. And it was such a special moment. And nowadays, not nowadays, like in Bhakti Marga, it's just so easy and accessible. And I can really say the grace is bigger. Like what you can achieve is higher, and everything is just so easier and accessible. Like we are so spoiled. We have to be so grateful for what we have with Guruji and all the Swamis around. And like we can have a Zoom meeting with Swami and literally talk about anything. This doesn't exist everywhere else.
I started with Yogananda's group as well, and you just don't go to them with your problems, right? No. You can't just go sit down and talk to them, you know. Now I think so the one, unless you don't want to cover it, but the story about Guruji coming to your home to perform a yagna after your baby passed.
Yeah.
Is an amazing story if you feel like sharing that one.
Where did you hear this? Was a Temple Satsang recorded, or was it?
I can't remember. It was a while back, but what stuck in my mind was you weren't expecting him, and all of a sudden he came screaming up in his car, slammed the brakes on.
I will jump. I hope you all forgive me that because if I tell the whole story from the beginning, it's long. You know, and there was Guruji made amazing miracles. Guruji literally healed and revived my daughter because she passed away in the 6th day. And the doctors didn't understand why she came back to life. And on that day, Guruji said, I gave a piece of my heart to her. And Guruji was in another country and my daughter was in Germany. So Guruji, in one day, he said, I gave a piece of my heart to her. And the day she passed away with 6 days of life because of heart condition called hypoplastic left heart syndrome. It's basically the left side of the heart is too small. And then she lived for 6 months, and then she passed away in the very resumed story, in the heart of the grandmother of the mom side. And Guruji in the beginning said, she's fine, she's blessed, she came by the blessing of Sarasvati Mata, so you don't have to worry about her, she's just doing her job. And she came like this also to take karma from the mother's family. And at the end, she chose to leave her body on the arms of the grandmother. I remember I was playing a concert and when she was born, like in the room where she was born, in the moment she came out, I sang one bhajan for Radha. I sang this bhajan when she was born. And in the moment she was passing away, I was also singing this bhajan without knowing, exactly 6 months.
Oh, wow.
It's crazy. So basically she passed away and it was the hardest moment of my life. Can you imagine me in the hospital with my deceased daughter? It was not on my hands, it was on my ex-wife's arms and I was in front holding her hand. And it's literally a cold baby body. From a baby which was after one surgery was actually living a healthy, normal life. Normal health. And I called Guruji and said, Guruji, the doctor said, finished. You are the only one who can do something now. So it's in a dark room in a hospital. We chill the body and I'm in the phone with Guruji. We all in tears. And that's the moment where Guruji shows how he's beyond any human behavior way if he wants to. He, in a very normal, cold way, he said, it's finished. She doesn't want to come back. I was with her and it's finished. Move on. Like, in a way, like how can he expect me to move on? She just passed away. I have her body in my hands. He's like, no. Like I talked to her. She doesn't want to come back now. It's fine.
We had a phone call.
Yeah, and that was the conversation. He was like, oh, that's so hard. Like, he was not like, there was no comfort coming from him.
Yeah.
Or in that moment, he just made it so strong actually in that moment. Then the next day he called again and he played a little bit the human game and he was soft and he said this and that. And so after some time, Guruji was traveling and he said, he was asking the Swamis, actually no, that was on the next day, I have to tell the story. On the next day she passed away, I came to the house we rented. It was 50 minutes from the ashram in a village called Zorn, just close by. And all the residents, I mean, not all of them, the majority of the residents took the ashram cars and they came to our house. And yeah, this story is really, really touching actually. And they came to our house and it was me and my ex-wife, who were massacred. And they bring instruments and we sit on the floor and they start to sing bhajans. And they put the neighbors, of course, village in Germany, the neighbors all know what happened already. And they're basically grandmothers living around. So they gossip all around. So we started to sing and I started to cry. And we closed not only the windows, but also the sun, for them not to think that we are crazy, because we are ecstatically like singing in the house loud after my daughter passed away. And the feeling of how kirtan is transcendental, how to say it? Transcendental.
Yes.
That moment, because it's beyond joy and sadness. So we started to cry and sing, and doing this kirtan, imagine that's the situation where you do kirtan without any pretension, without any reason that's not to sing God's name.
Mhm.
Yeah, that I didn't believe that singing would comfort me, or I was not expecting God to do anything. It's just for the sake of God's name. And I started to cry, and at the same time, my mind broke, and I started to feel it's not joy, a sort of bliss.
Mm.
Was a bliss that I actually never felt before.
Wow.
And it's literally beyond the mind. And my mind was going crazy and angry with myself, because your daughter just passed away yesterday. You cannot feel bliss. You cannot feel anything positive. But I was feeling a bliss that was like exploding inside of me. And I was like, and the feeling was also, that also came because of the feeling of family, of real spirit of family. And then that's why I understand why the ashram community, the spirit of family, the spirit of Bhakti Marga family is so important. Like how we are deep connected, and how we can deeply help each other. So this feeling of real spiritual family, and the bliss of singing God's name, when we understand that we are really not the body. Because
Yes.
I cannot describe, but the bliss in that moment was beyond anything that I can describe with words. And was detached anything material.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that was like a crazy, literally a spiritual experience after like
And that's, people don't understand that these leelas get played out
yeah,
because of this massive expansion that's going to happen in you.
I just lost something that was the main, together with Guruji, was the main center of my life. No? And this loss opened this at the same time when you have like a big hole inside of you.
Yeah.
And then I sang God's name. Let's say this hole was filled with bliss. It was bliss. What I was doing was singing God's name. That's how I can explain it. I don't know. I cannot actually explain it, but that's how I am supposed it is happening. But
I think it's great for people to hear that in the middle of intense tragedy, this divine grace drops in.
Only if you are devoted you can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
And so some days later, Guruji was actually, some weeks later, Guruji said a specific number of days, maybe 20 something days. It's time to do a yagna for the soul. And he said, he will be around you guys until we do this yagna, just because it's the right thing to do. And then Guruji was already in Germany, in the ashram, and he himself came for this ashram. That's why I say, like, it was on January 2013, and it was snowy, and Guruji came himself driving the car. And if you ever seen Guruji drive, he drives like he's in a how to say, like an off-road race, like a really wild. It's amazing. So it was snowy, and then he broke the car in the snow. The car stopped like so far from the wall of my window. He comes out full of scarves, and he comes out like with the little gang of monks with all the Sangha stuff. I mean, like they all come super smart and make everything ready in the living room of the house. And yeah, and then we had this really beautiful yagna with some members of my family, some members of the Mahav's family, and Guruji. And that was it. It was maybe like 20 people in the house. And we did a yagna in the living room with Guruji. It's crazy when I think nowadays, actually. You just made me remind myself of that Guruji literally came to do a yagna in my place. Like, how crazy. In my living room for a small, it was not an event or anything. So, and yeah, for the soul. So he made that, and It's funny because I, being the father, I had to actually lead the yagna most of the time myself.
Oh, right.
And yeah, at the end we all share prasad and Guruji stayed sitting, and then it became like that's how the focus changed. And Guruji sat on the couch, and suddenly we're all devotees. And
That's
not
right.
think about anything else, just sitting at his feet and enjoying his presence and having prasad. Okay, some of the prasad was not prasad because it was for the soul. You had to put out in the nature.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, that was basically the yagna with Guruji. I remember that some members of the Maharaj family that were not devotees, they also came, and they were, of course, they had no idea what is a yagna whatsoever. And I remember so random, having a discussion with the brother of my ex-wife because I was wearing a kurta, and he said, "Why are you wearing a dress?" And I said, "What are you talking about? Like people in Germany were wearing dresses thousands of years ago as well. Just jeans is so new."
That's right.
Jeans came like less than 100 years ago. What you were wearing before that? Like, you also wore dresses at a point, all your ancestors.
That's right. And jeans and heat make no sense, right?
That's it. Jeans makes no sense at all anyway. Like it's so tight. And
Yes.
nowadays I know. That's how Guruji guided the situation.
Now you had a beautiful story too from Mauritius about the image appearing on the wall.
Panduranga, yes.
Wondering.
What I missed just before that was the fact that Panduranga, Krishna himself, took a human form and appeared to Guruji and to Ras Nagaridasya, a Mauritian devotee, just before, right? I think maybe the stories are somehow connected. So an old man and a young man, random, that nobody knew, Mauritius is not a big island, appeared in the end of a satsang that Guruji gave. And they didn't bow down to Guruji, but they were forced to touch Guruji's feet by the devotees. Then Guruji asked them, "So are you his son?" And they said, "No, you're only friends." But he was a little naughty boy and an old man, so how can these men be friends? When this person left, Guruji said, "You guys don't realize, but there was actually Krishna, Vitala, the little boy, and the old man was Saint Gyaneshwara, Saint Gyaneshwara. He came to bless you all." And then some time passed, and I arrived in Mauritius. I was sleeping in a little mattress in the floor of the living room, which is literally 10 meters far from Guruji's room door. So there's a couple of rooms nowadays, the simple house, but has been built over the years. We put always a layer. It's like in Brazil, when people build their own house, always leave one possibility to eventually in the future put one floor. Never know how big the family is going to become. So Guruji's house nowadays has room for became an ashram. It has rooms for guests and everything. So, but in the down floor, it's Guruji's room, and me and some others. There just mattresses on the floor, and we were just staying there. This now, some months ago, and there was like 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning. The others were not there, and I hear Guruji calling me, so shouting, "Anaraka!" And I open the door, and then they say, "Do you see Vital on the wall?" And then I have to look properly and come to the side, and I start like first I didn't see, and then it became clear, like this form is like it was like a shade. How can I say it? It's like there's a shade painted on the wall.
Right.
It's not painted, but it's not a shade because you can put your hand and scrub on top of it, but it doesn't leave. And it's just very light, but you can see from the right perspective, you can see very clear. But if you make a picture, another picture, it's too light, that doesn't come. So I started to make pictures and play with the contrasts and the lights in the picture. And then it became super clear. And then I started to see, like even with the naked eyes, I could see Panduranga's smile, eyes, crown. You can see his earrings, his necklace, dhoti, shawl. You can see all these details in that painted shade.
Yeah.
How say? Is this a shade or shadow? I never know.
Shadow, I
That's a
think.
shadow, okay. His
Yeah.
painted shadow. And so that was mind blowing, and it was right above Guruji's head on his bed. Like it's Guruji's bed, where his bed stays, and then above his head on the wall, that's where the Panduranga appeared. And we were all touched. I remember I had tears in my eyes, and just for that appearance of Krishna on the wall. And Guruji was like, "Oh, maybe Rukmini is also here. Is Rukmini here?" Like, oh, she didn't come. And that was it. So Panduranga was there again. We were coming. Oh, he's still there. And we were really enjoying that he was there, that he is there, he's still there. So detail that in that time also the deities of Panduranga arrived from India together in the same time, more or less. But it was because of Corona lockdown, Guruji didn't want to install the deities yet. He wanted the lockdown to finish, so we would install the deities. So the deities were in a box, in a wooden box inside the temple. But Krishna, together with the deities, appeared already on the wall of his room, which is 100 meters from the temple. And so the lockdown became worse, so we moved to the hotel to be together with the pilgrimage devotees. And then we left the hotel when it was finished and came back, and time was passing by, and the lockdown was not relaxing. And Guruji said, day 11 is the day where we do the
Installation.
The installation, the Pranapatishtha. So that was fixed. Devotees from outside could not come, but all of us who were there in the compound was already enough people, so we made a big party. And there was this long day inauguration, and amazing. The dates are super beautiful. On the next morning, I hear Guruji calling me again. Radhika, I think Rukmini appeared on the wall. And then I run there, and she just it's mind blowing. Like it's just that shadow painted on the wall is now there. In the same way, like you can see details. You can see you can see details from the smile, from the eyes, from the ground. But it's a shadow at the same time, and it's nothing normal. And funny enough, the size of the image of Panduranga and Rukmini on the wall is quite the same size of the deities in the temple.
Oh.
and just to make some funny, interesting perception that I have in my mind, Rukmini is not a gopi like Radha. She's not living barefoot on the village. Yeah, Rukmini is a queen. Is Lakshmi manifested on earth as the queen of Krishna, and Krishna was the most majestic king on earth. He became like Dwaraka was an amazing place with like palaces built over the sea, like in mini islands. Can you imagine? Like it's like, this amazing Dubai islands. Dwaraka was 10 times that, or even more. So that was Dwaraka, and Rukmini was the main queen. It was Lakshmi incarnated. And I was thinking, she's such an amazing queen that she had to wait for the proper installation, like install me properly on your house, and then I come. I'm not going to appear before you do the whole ceremony. I'm not going to appear before the whole mantras, the whole installation. Krishna came before, but she waited that she, as a queen, received a common place there. Exactly,
I think you're right.
Exactly on the night of the inauguration, she then appeared, like more than 1 month after Krishna. For those who don't know, there might be some new people here. Krishna, Vitala, Panduranga are the same person.
Yes.
Sometimes people get this mixed up.
And it is confusing in Hinduism. There's so many names that people have to get used to. And yeah, it's nice that Guruji's just slowly accustoming everyone to all the names of the same incarnation. So that, because go ahead.
There's a question from Anisha Dasi that I think is interesting.
Okay.
about Divine Mother in my life and what's my relationship with the Divine Mother in what specific form, because she wrote, from what I remember, I serve Narayana. I mean, when Guruji revealed to me my Ishtadev, if somebody here, because I think there's some people who saw on social media this post and they are not Bhakti Marga devotees, we are so spoiled in Bhakti Marga that our Guru look inside of our souls and say who is our Ishtadev. Because outside of Bhakti Marga, you have to think that you choose your Ishtadev. Like, oh, I feel so close to that day, and then what's it? Good enough, no? And then you basically have your Ishtadev from that first mind perception that sometimes not the heart yet, because you're not mature enough. But in Bhakti Marga, Guruji just look inside of your soul and tell you, and you understand later on that was the perfect thing, always. Because it's a relationship that we have for many lives. And when I came to Guruji and I asked Guruji, can you tell me who is my Ishtadev? I thought he would tell me Krishna or Narayana. And he looked at me and said, Mahalakshmi. And I was, what? Mahalakshmi? Then I took it serious and I said, let's build a relationship, Juma. And I didn't understand because I was so fresh that times, and I didn't understand also how Lakshmi worship is actually Vaishnava worship. Of course, our Vaishnavism is a very open-minded Vaishnavism, and even if Guruji tells you to worship Durga and Kali, if you know Guruji, you can be a perfect Vaishnava worshipping everyday Kali and Durga, because they are servants of Narayana and they are expression of Narayana themselves, or the expression of Narayana's energy. So it has to be clear. But in my mind, it was not yet so clear. So when he told Mahalakshmi, it was a bit of a challenge for me. And then it took me some time to understand. But if I look back, I always prayed to God before I met Guruji in the feminine form. I always felt more close to Mary than to Jesus in Brazil as a child. I always,
Right.
when I was reading the Yogananda stories and reading about yoga and Hinduism and stuff, I always felt more related to Kali and Durga than to the male forms of God that appear. But I never felt so attracted to Lakshmi originally before, because I saw people praying for Lakshmi for money, and I never liked that. And then later I understood that Lakshmi is the eternal consort of Narayana. She is the grace of Narayana herself. She's the sweetness of Narayana herself. And in South India, in ancient Sri Vaishnavism, like Ramanuja and Yamunacharya lived, and Natamuni, and all this ancient Vaishnavas and saints, like the relationship that Lakshmi has pretty much what Radha is nowadays in North India. North India, they pray for Lakshmi for money, and Radha is love. But in South India, Mahalakshmi is love. Radha is a new concept for South Indians.
Mhm.
And once I understood that, and then everything made sense for me. So, and when Guruji, so I serve Mahalakshmi also in the main temple here in Shri Nilaya, so I'm Lakshmi Pujari. And that's Guruji answering a deep prayer for me. It took years. Guruji sometimes I can tell you some stories where it took years for him to answer one prayer. He always answers any prayer, so take care of what you ask. But it can take some years. So I actually literally was sitting for many years in front of Lakshmi in the old little temple and saying, "My Guruji says you are my Ishtadev, and I can do puja in the temple, but I cannot serve you. Why?" And then after some time, some game happens, and I'm there on the main altar serving Mahalakshmi, one of the main pujas. But when Guruji manifested the Lakshmi Narayana out of his heart, so that's the main deity there. You would say is Narayana, but it's not only Narayana, it's Lakshmi Narayana. Lakshmi is pressing his feet. I can show you a picture if you don't know it. Lakshmi is pressing his feet. And you have also Adishesh and Brahma. So it's Lakshmi, Narayana, Brahma, and Adishesh in the deity.
And it looks heavy, is it? It looks like it's
I never checked the weight, but it's heavy. Yeah, it's massive.
yeah.
It's not very big, but it's very massive. Like it's like this big. And I mean, who doesn't like when we measure data like this? Because they're infinite.
But for something with that substantial mass to come out of his heart is really quite
it's
something.
amazing.
Yeah.
So that's my Prabhuji in the Abhishekan of his 6 years anniversary this year. So you see Lakshmi on the side pressing his feet and his beautiful face. His belly, Guruji like.
So detailed.
Yeah. And so basically I serve Lakshmi Narayana. And my Ishtadev is Mahalakshmi. I even ask Guruji if I always should relate my Ishtadev to Lakshmi and some of her husband's forms. You know? But if I told you Mahalakshmi, it's only Mahalakshmi. But then he manifests for me Lakshmi Narayana. So automatically I serve Lakshmi Narayana. And I call him Prabhuji because, of course, the boss there, if there is a boss, is Narayana, but of course the wife is the ultimate boss. Of course, if she disagrees with something, Narayana always follow. That's many Vaishnava poetry which says that. Vaishnava poetry, like the Gunaratna Kosam says that Narayana is ruling the whole universes and creating and dissolving everything, but he does everything looking at the lotus face of Lakshmi and waiting for the approval in her eyes. and she, mother is always like, their loving relationship cosmically is so beautiful that he creates, like she's his expansion of grace and manifestation, and it's difficult to say it's a creation of him, but has always existed with him.
Right.
That's difficult to comprehend. And at the same time, they play this game of being always together, this love relationship. So you can say he is the main one, but he needs her approval. That's how the say. If she doesn't like, he changes it.
Well, and like they say, it's through the mother that you get to the father, right? If you want to get something out of dad, go talk to mom.
So that's my relationship to the mother.
Well, I know
I'm not good enough to go straight to him. I make too many mistakes.
Now there's a question there. I don't know if you wanted to get into that or not, about you not eating.
Walter Küchenberg. Deutscher. Okay, Guruji already said in public, but it's just in short. In 2011, 6 months before I met Guruji, I made the 21 days prana process, the breatharianism process. And I had a dream with Yogananda, actually, my only dream with Yogananda, and he gave me a hug in this process. So I understood that I was not doing anything wrong. And I spent this 21 days, 7 days not even drinking, and then the rest of the days just drinking. I passed this after 21 days, I was feeling great. And then since then I don't feel any hunger, and that's it. So basically I was very strict in the first year, and the first year I spent just having some liquids and having some fun here and there with liquids and whatever, sometimes an ice cream, but never eating anything. And after 1 year I actually relaxed a little bit, and if I want to have something for fun, I have, but I never have any meal, or nobody sees me in the dining hall like really having any meal. If somebody made me a chocolate, I might accept the piece of the chocolate.
So I think I don't want to keep you too late, but there's one more question that was just asking you if you studied Indian classical music.
I will not say that I studied. Who is Himavati? Are you from India?
You can unmute whoever asked that.
So I will not say that I studied in the normal sense. So I can't say that I studied like really jazz music and Western music, like in depth. Like I was 10 years in the university, also part of classical music and in different areas of modern music and arrangement. But the concepts of music theory, I always loved music theory. Like I never liked mathematics, but math in music is for me like gold.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I came to to Indian music, to understand the concept of the scale, is just a beautiful sport, because there is new things, but most of the things is just recognize them again in a new name, in a new form, things that I already studied. And of course, in the practical, in the performance, there's a lot of change. But in theory, we're talking about the same notes, and it's interesting. Like in West, they would treat the scale that way. In East, in South India, they treat that same bunch of notes in that other way. That's actually the main note now, not but before it was that other one. In North India is even different. And so I love that to go into it and read about it and study it. And it's true that I'm more close to Carnatic Indian music than to Hindustani music for some reason. But I'm unfortunately not a Carnatic singer. I hope I still develop the courage to ask my friend Karthikeyan, who is a devotee in an amazing Carnatic teacher and singer in South Africa. He's Tamil of South Africa. Because he offered himself to, like, he has a school and he teaches, and he's like not cheap, but he offered himself to teach me. But I have the problem to commit with him and don't be such a good student as he wants me to be. So I do ask questions to all my Indian musician friends the whole time. So I learn from them like this. And I'm always getting some exercise for him. And I practice my Sariga nowadays, maybe 2-3 times a week, normally in my room. And so I have my Indian practice. I go in depth in the theory of Carnatic music, and I get feedback and I get exercises from teachers. But I will not say that I studied it. I'm not that far. But for me, it's also very important to literally also learn by ear. So I take singers and I don't learn only the main tune, the main melody, but sometimes I study the ornaments, so the ornamentation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we could go on forever, but I have to wake up 5:30.
Well, from all of us, Radhika, thank you so much. And thank you for opening your heart and giving us such personal experiences, because I think it will help everyone deal with what they're going through in life. So by Guruji's grace, thank you so much.
Let's do some Om Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti 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 Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om.
I'm going to sing a bhajan with Kanakadasi, okay?
Oh, yay! Thank you.
He agreed, so let's do a bhajan.
Oh, yay! It's like the curtain call, right? The curtain call at the end of the performance.
Yeah, because of the lag, because of the internet lag, if you guys sing along, it's problematic.
Yeah, so everybody mute.
But you have to sing, I have to see your mouth moving in the camera,
Okay.
otherwise I stop singing. Okay?
Did everybody hear that? We'll sing, but we'll be muted.
But what do I sing? Okay, I'll start somewhere and then let's see where we go. Oh, sweet. Yeah. I think the harmonium is too loud, so let me just put some clothes on top of the harmonium, otherwise this is going to cover the voice. What if we have so many clothes here before? That's always acoustic problems. Jai Jai Ram, Krishna Hari, Jai Jai Ram, Krishna Hari, Jai Jai Ram, Krishna
Fantastic. Thank you, you guys. Thank you so much. Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev. Bye-bye.
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 Vittala, Vittala, Vittala.